2 or 3 occasions, but at half-time at the Etihad Stadium, it's 0-0. Well, let's go back to the studio, and we can join Cal, who is in the company of Shaun Goater, of Paul Dickov, and Kolo Toure.
Welcome back to Matchday Live. We are live from the Etihad Stadium, where it's half-time in this top-of-the-table clash against Arsenal. All square after 45 minutes. Manchester City 0, Arsenal 0. Shaun Goater, it was like a game of chess at times. Although no goals, you couldn't take your eyes off that first half.
No, you couldn't. What was interesting, we saw Kovacic over on the left-hand side, and my thinking initially was, okay, what is the idea behind that? But I could start to see why. And that Kovacic is obviously calm on the ball, and I think it was to attract Saka to him and allow our fullback to just go a little further and beyond. And with attracting him, that means that it allows our fullback to push on and create overloads with our Foden in that area as well. And Kovacic has done the role very well, but I think Saka as well at the same time is only try to press when the ball's been in City's defensive third. But other than that, he's actually stayed compact with the fullback and he's not come out. So it's not created as much space as I think City would have liked. But I can see the thinking is to pull Saka out to then get Foden linking up with our fullback, with Guardiola, to create the overloads in those areas. But again, it's one you can't take your eyes off.
You really can't. Guardiola been very impressive, focusing on him on just a second. Kolo, it was that tight. Who do you think is going to be going in at half-time, the happier team and manager?
I will say it will be Arsenal.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the game, you can see that Arsenal don't want to concede any goal. I think Arsenal will be happy with a draw today. And they don't want to concede anything to City because they know that attacking-wise, City are the best team in the country, of course. But you could see that Arsenal are really dangerous on the break, you know, because every time Arsenal get around the Manchester City box, they look really dangerous. And I think definitely Arsenal is happy at the moment, in my opinion.
Arsenal happier. City though as well. As you said, there was a couple of chances. There was a half chance. A couple of times the ball's come over into City's box from their right hand side coming across the left. But other than that, Paul, I can't really think of Ortega having to do too much, and we seem to have had the ball a lot in Arsenal's half. Seems very complete performance.
Yeah, look, we said before it was going to be very tactical, you know, and Ortega's got the ball from goal kicks on his hands. Arsenal, they are trying to press quite high up, but as soon as that doesn't happen, Arsenal, they're going into such a low block. You know, they've got their back four, then they've got virtually a 5 right in front of them, and then Havertz floating around sort of 40 yards from their own goal and making it really difficult for City to try and break them through. But City are used to that, they're comfortable with that, you know, and although we've not created that many clear-cut chances, they'll keep doing the same things. You know, they'll wait for one of the Arsenal players to either switch off, somebody for a little bit of magic to do it. You know, me and Kolo were saying if the game keeps going the way it's going, is it going to be a game for a Doku to come on or a Jack Grealish to come on maybe 20 minutes to go, 50 minutes, if it stays the same, you know, to maybe go and try and commit someone. You know, I know he's on the bench today. I think it's just a shame that John Stones isn't there, because he's usually the one that can draw players out. You know, he wants to step into midfield, he wants to attract players to him. And Arsenal's shape's so rigid at the minute that it's difficult for City to play through them.
Are you surprised, Kolo? We said about how good they have been going forward, and they've had the defensive resilience, but surprised that they have opted to be, obviously they're being respectful, but that they haven't come and attacked more like we've seen in previous games, given the form Arsenal have been in.
That's why we say that before the game. It's going to be a defensive game, really, you know, because both teams have unbelievable threat attacking. They know that they need to make sure they don't concede goals to maybe win the game or to draw the game. And I think that I'm not surprised of what Arsenal is doing right now, because if Arsenal lose today, I think Arsenal will be really disappointed. Yeah. And for City want to win the game. And it doesn't matter. Even if City doesn't win today, City will be still on it. You know, and Arsenal have all to lose for me, you know, psychologically, in my opinion. That's why they're really caution there. They don't want to open themselves too much, you know, and maybe thinking, you know, getting a goal on counter-attack or maybe on set pieces as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Key moment earlier on in the first half was the Ake injury, Shaun. Sad to see. Then meant Rico Lewis came on the right. How do you think the defence then fared once Akanji then moved into centre half, because he did start out on the right?
Yeah, well, in general play, I think if Arsenal are to go long, I would go long towards Rico. We're seeing one ball go that way, and Arsenal, if it's going to be flicked on, because Rico, again, as a great player he is, but he just doesn't have the height.
Yes.
So that's a weakness from City's point. But also...
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
But at the same, nothing wrong. But at the same time, we're seeing Rodri sort of drop back into the defensive line when they look like they're going to go long. So they've got ways around dealing with that. So if Rico goes for it, Rodri drops in, so they still essentially then got a back four to make up for that. But again, City have different ways of being able to go and exploit to open this game up. But what's interesting is I find that Arsenal actually got this high line, and we were saying through the game that there doesn't seem to be this penetrating run, whether it's from the front players. We all seem to be looking for the intricate balls in, getting turned, or setting back and driving, where it looks as though there could be a run from in off wide, or Foden run from inside, in behind, or even Erling Haaland just running in behind it, because they got a high line at times as well.
To the other side of the pitch, I mean, we know he's a sleeping giant sometimes, Haaland. You know, even though he might not have been involved too much, all he needs is one chance. But I do feel, Paul, how could we maybe get him a bit more in the game and maybe having fashioning a few more shots? I don't think he's had a shot that hard.
No, I was just actually going to come on to that. So, I think 5 minutes before half time was the first time that Stefan Ortega really missed out the midfield and got it into Erling. I think Saliba went all the way in with Kevin De Bruyne into midfield and left him up against Gabriel, and he held the ball up, got it wide, and I think we ended up getting a corner for it, or getting across in the box. So maybe just mixing it up a little bit before Arsenal, because Arsenal are super organised in what they're doing, but there is a turnover in the game, or a turnover within the game, where City can, before Arsenal get set in their shape, they can go into Erling maybe a little bit quicker, and then you've got to trust him to hold the ball up and bring other players in. But Shaun made a great point, you know, there is space in behind at times, you know, and we're not really looking whether it's the player on the ball or whether one of the runners to try and do that. And do you know what, it can be a bad run sometimes, but it'll just make Arsenal defence drop back a little bit and maybe try and create the space in the midfield for your De Bruynes or your Fodens or for your Kovacic, you know. So just that movement of making that run into space, you know, Kolo, if you've got a forward that's going to make that, you're going to go with them and drop off. Absolutely. And then that can create that space in front of their back four.
I think nowadays, you know, we see the high line a lot now because there's VAR.
Yeah.
You know, and VAR will always help the defenders at the moment. That's why back in the days you cannot gamble.
Yeah.
You have to go.
Of course.
You know, you have to go. And I think VAR changing the game a lot. That's why we see that highlight all the time. Stop, you know, maybe midfield or striker to make the run in the space. But I still believe as a striker, I will gamble, I will run there.
Yeah. It's an unselfish run that you need to do sometimes. You know, it's to make that run not for yourself all the time, but for your teammates.
Kolo, looking from Arsenal's point of view, so they'll be coming out in the second half. Obviously, we feel the draw maybe suits them a little bit more. But is there anything you'd maybe like to see a little bit more from them, or maybe any changes possibly looking for that second half?
For me, I think Arsenal is playing the game that they have to play.
Yes.
You know, when you come to City, this is the toughest game of the season.
Yeah.
You know, if you drew the game there, you'll be very happy.
Yeah.
And I think they have to just do what they did in the first half. If they keep doing that and stop City, just play the game, you know, 1 point, you know, can be good for Arsenal, of course.
Yes.
But as we know, they can score on counter-attack, on set pieces, you know, and they have to carry on the game plan, in my opinion.
Sure. Interesting thing is Jesus, as much as he's quality going forward, he's a huge part of what Arsenal do defensively, and we're seeing at times, you know, we see him back with the fullback, which makes it more difficult. And I think because he's on a yellow card, it's going to be interesting on them to say, do they keep him on because he's on a yellow card, or do they take him off? They take him off. Martinelli obviously he gives you what he gives you going forward, but they lose what Jesus gives you defensively.
Yes.
So that's going to be interesting, and whether they decide to make that move or how long before they make that move.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Right, let's take a slight pause from my questions. Let's look to some of your questions that you've been getting in touch on WhatsApp. We're going to bring them up on the bottom of the screen here, and I'll be able to read them to our guests. So hopefully this should pop up now. Our first question comes from... Here we are. Is it coming? All right, okay, we're going to get the questions in just a second. We won't come to them. I want to then, Sean, do you know what I can come to actually, Sean? I'll come to the women's team. We know it is ever so tight in the WSL. Big win in the derby. Talk to us about the game yesterday. An incredible win at Liverpool. You all must be so happy.
Yes, we were. We know that if we keep going as we are, it could potentially come down to goal or go down to goal difference. That's not trying to look too far ahead because we try to deal with each game as it occurs. But the girls have been in phenomenal form, and the one sort of blemish we'd have is that we conceded a goal, and my head, it was an absolute exceptional goal. I mean, there's a left full-back who comes inside and hits a 30, 35-yarder for right foot, and all the girls were saying, I don't think she'll ever score another goal as good as that.
No.
But it was just one of those where it's come against us. But really good form. When we're changing players or players are coming in and doing a role, they're performing well, and this is what we want, that real competition. Bruyne scores an absolute screamer, a worldie. I almost feel like when I start going into players, Jessie Parks, she's been phenomenal. We're here, we see
this goal.
Picks up the second ball, she gets turned, bit of fortune there, and just hits it. And and that really set us off. I mean, we were really calm because Hemp scored early. Hemp has been in exceptional form as well. And I'm just really delighted. We're all delighted. We're really confident form at this moment.
Shawnee, how pleased are you for Jess Park? We done the podcast with her last week.
Yeah.
And she just seemed like a bundle of enthusiasm, how much she loves her football. Because she's had to wait for a chance, hasn't she?
She has, and that's the one thing we say to the girls, those who aren't, playing week in, week out, it's like, listen, your chance may come, and when it comes, you got to take it. Jessie Parks has been absolutely brilliant because she's come into the team from Christmas time. Ooh, every time I look at it, it's a screamer. She's come back into the team, and she's just really, I love her when she gets to all these areas.
Great feet, isn't it?
Yeah, she's really quick, dynamic, going left to right, and I call it Jessie time when she receives the ball around the edge of the box and she's got her head up running because she's so dynamic to be able to go left or right, and she just leaves defenders. And the one thing she's really doing exceptionally well is sort of her final action, whether it's passing or shooting and hitting the target. So she's getting real joy at this moment, and really pleased.
And of course knows where the back of the net is, given she was a striker, and now we're playing her a little bit deeper as well. So the goals there as well. She knows how to kind of hit the back of the net, Sean. Also, it does feel the togetherness. I think Jess Park spoke about this in a post-match interview. There's a real togetherness of the team. When we did the game for the derby of the Etihad, you could feel that. How key is that going to be to trying to secure the WLS crown at the end of the season?
Huge, and this goes right back to areas or times when City actually looked to recruit a player. When I'm sitting in the meetings and we're talking about recruiting players, it also goes to what's the personnel of the individual. So when I look at all these players, they all just really get along. There's no real big time players. You look at Chloe, you look at Hempo, these are top players, Mary, Alana, I can go right through the team. These are, quality players, but they all really get along and just push each other. So we're in a really good place.
Really are. Well, listen, we're wishing you luck for the rest of those games right there. The teams are in the tunnel. That has absolutely flown by. So it's Manchester City 0, Arsenal 0, all to play for in these next 45 minutes. Also as well, I'm sure we'll be seeing some tactical changes from the two masterminds of Pep and Arteta. Alistair Mann and Nicky Weaver have got your commentary. Come join myself, Kolo, Sean and Paul at full time, where hopefully we'll be dissecting a Manchester City win. It's Manchester City 0, Arsenal 0.
Thank you, Kel. Welcome back to the Etihad. There is not a single player out there yet. They're all down the tunnel at the moment, chatting away with each other. Martin Ødegaard eventually brings Arsenal out. Well, there hasn't been a Premier League draw between City and Arsenal since April of 2017. Most of those games have been won by City. Only one by Arsenal, and that of course was the reverse fixture back in October when, to be honest, it was a 0-0 draw in every regard except one, and that was that there was a deflected goal in the last few minutes of the game and Arsenal won it. It was really a 0-0 draw, just as this one is, and I think it's fair to say that both sides have cancelled each other out. Alongside me, the former City goalkeeper Nicky Weaver. Nicky, am I oversimplifying it by saying that these two sides have cancelled each other out so far?
I think